And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Alix Steel. We're taking you through that closing bell with a global simulcast that starts right now. We're joined in the TV studio by Scarlet Fu, as always. Tim Stenovec in the radio booth. Norah Mulinda filling in for Carol Massar today as we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms. Here on what looks to be another record-setting day, Tim Stenovec, 3 straight weeks of gains for the S&P 500. And it looks like it's going to be, I'm told, a 57th record high.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere as well. 57th record high. I'm looking at other record highs, too, including Meta platforms. We can't stop talking about TikTok over here. I'm not a big TikToker.
Yeah.
Romaine, are you a big TikToker?
I thought we renamed that to Bloomberg Originals.
That's such an inside joke.
Nice inside joke. We did used to have a TikTok here. That was
the other TikTok. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the other TikTok.
Yeah.
The one that could be, January 19th. No longer be allowed here?
No, we don't do TikTok here.
Yeah. See, I'm using it.
Norah does.
I do. Thank you, Alix.
Nora's the one who's been telling me about TikTok, guys,
Yeah.
to be fair.
I know all the deets.
All right.
Yeah.
What are the deets? Are you actually going to be able to use TikTok on January 20th?
I surely hope so.
Okay. All right.
I have a TikTok account. I haven't checked it in a while, but, that's for another day. What's interesting about this market high is that it's not accompanied by a whole lot of volume. It just feels like a lot of people are, sleeping until the new year, until January 20th, honestly, until we get some new catalysts, because until then, it's a whole lot of uncertainty.
Yes, it is a lot of uncertainty, which is interesting, though, why you still see the Russell 2000 doing well, even though the mid caps have not. So that's interesting to take into effect there.
All right, let's walk you through the numbers here, because it was an interesting week for the markets. And to Scarlett's point, too, we should point out volume roughly about 10 to 15% below where it would normally be over the past 20 days here. A Dow Jones Industrial Average right across the screen there, down more than 100 points, or roughly about 0.3%. It's also lower on the week as well by 0.6%. The S&P 500, 6,089 or 990 as these numbers, of course, take time to settle, but that's going to be good enough for a record high, up 15 points or about 0.2% on the day, and about 1% roughly over the 5-day stretch. The Nasdaq Composite higher by 159 points or 0.8%, a 3% gain on the week. But the Russell 2000 kind of sitting this one out. Green on the screen for the day, 0.5%, but on a weekly basis, it's down 1.3%.
All right, well, let's take a deeper dive into the S&P 500. We did have 205 stocks move higher today, 295 stocks move lower, so showing that those stocks that did advance were those larger market cap names.
Yeah, and the larger market cap names are also the growthier parts of the market as well. Look at the IMAP here, and it shows you that consumer discretionary up 2.4%, communication services gaining 1.4%, and tech just barely positive, but it is still a gain of 0.1%. Growthy parts of the market gaining ground. The weak parts of the market, energy, utilities, and healthcare.
All right, let's take a look at some of the stocks that did move higher on the day today. Back to this idea of TikTok being banned. Bad news for TikTok, good news for Meta platforms. Meta platforms closing at a new record, higher today by more than 2%. Shares of Meta surging after that U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington refused to block that law requiring TikTok's China-based owner to sell the app or face a U.S. ban, 2.4% to the upside. Today, closing at $623.77. Look, the next stop is the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens if the Supreme Court does indeed hear this. We also saw shares of Alphabet, Snap, and Pinterest rise on this news. Let's talk Lululemon, because shares posted their best one-day gain in 6 years, higher by 16% today. This after the company edged up its full-year outlook. Strong sales overseas, a sign that the company is fending off those upstart competitors, navigating slower growth in consumer spending. And finally, shares of Asana having their best day ever today. Shares just surging. This after the company provide third quarter revenue that beat estimates, a sign that the business is stabilizing, according to analysts. Look at that, up by 43.5%. Norah.
Can I throw an honorable mention, too? I thought the rebound that we saw in DocuSign today was pretty phenomenal. I think it closed higher by more than 20% on the day, Tim.
I only get 3, Romaine.
Oh,
so
I know.
I appreciate.
But Carol usually the
She's
cheat.
doing what he can.
Like 6 or
so. I'm a rule follower here, guys.
I know. I like that.
I get 3.
Same, Tim. All right, Norah, what do you got?
Well, let's look at some of the names in the red here. I'm keeping an eye on Cooper Companies. Now, this is actually the maker of contact lenses, but they also do some different providing sources for different gynecologists and medical companies here as well. But we're seeing the shares down about 4.3% at the close, and this is coming after it reported a 2025 forecast that disappointed expectations. But I did want to keep an eye also on some of those healthcare names that we saw falling. Of course, we know United Healthcare. We did see United Health Group, ticker UNH, falling, led a decline for many of these health insurance companies after, of course, that news that we had when they had their investor day, and as well as the shooting of the head of their insurance department. But those are some of the names that I'm looking at, as well as DraftKings. I mean, this is also a company that I'm keeping an eye on because of its Flutter, which is the parent company, actually fell after senators are seeking an FTC probe. So something to keep an eye on in this space.
All right, I'm taking a look. Yeah.
I just want to point out to it, just another decliner. We kind of missed this. AMD took a big leg down towards the close here. There was a report out on Business Insider about Amazon expressing some concerns about not enough demand for the company's latest AI chips. And remember, it kind of has that partnership with AMD, and that's the feed through there. Those shares ended the day down 2%.
Two honorable mentions?
Yeah, two honorable mentions.
That's something. All right, bless you, Scarlett. Bless you again. I'm taking a look at the bond market here because we had sort of a rally pretty much the second the jobs data number came out at 8:30. Obviously, it was centered in the front end. You get the 2-year yield down by 5 basis points. I do want to point out that we got a lot of Fed speak today as well. Then the blackout period starts, and it was a little bit mixed. Like Michelle Bowman talking about lower rates cautiously and gradually. You also had Beth Hammack saying the same thing. They're near or at a point where it makes sense to slow down those rate cuts. And Mary Daly saying she also believes in gradualism. Goolsbee, different story, a little bit more dovish, but it was an interesting read through today.
I don't understand though how this sort of all fits in though, right? Because if you look at what we saw in the market and the repricing in a lot of the swaps market here, everyone still thinks we're getting a ton of rate cuts now and through 2025.
I think they're just airing all the possibilities as we wait for more data when it comes down to it, right? Next week you have CPI on Wednesday and then PPI on Thursday. That'll give a little bit more direction as to what the Fed does on December 18th. And then, of course, it's the outlook for rate cuts and unemployment for 2025 that's really going to set the tone.
I guess I'm surprised a lot of people aren't talking more about the unknowns that you have with the incoming administration. If he does go through with the tariffs that he's announced, if he does end up going through with deporting millions of Americans and what potentially inflationary aspects that could bring, what that does to rates.
But I feel like isn't this kind of a repeat, though, of what we saw in 2016? I mean, people talk about that Trump rally, but they kind of forget most of that rally occurred before he was ever actually inaugurated. It was sort of like, okay, you know, we're euphoric, we all bake it in right now. And then, of course, once you started to see those policies, that's when you saw maybe a little bit of a consolidation in the market.
Yeah, remember all the volatility around the implementation of those China tariffs?
Yeah, absolutely.
But those are there now, and they're still there. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
are you stocking up? You know, people are hoarding things, Tim, now.
I heard they're hoarding toilet paper.
Toilet paper, so we learned.
Wait, toilet paper, though?
Yeah.
That's the one that you're going to stock
again.
up on ahead of tariffs?
But also what's interesting, too, we saw it in the UMich as well. I was talking to Joanne Shu, who leads the UMich data on radio earlier, and she was saying that people are buying durable goods now because they're worried about higher prices later. I mean, she didn't make the line for tariffs, but one can draw a conclusion, and the expectation for inflation is also higher because of that.
That's certainly what a lot of manufacturers are pushing, too. I mean, they're out there kind of marketing this idea, like, get it now before prices go up next year, because you never know.
Have I told you guys about the driverless car that I took in San Francisco a few weeks ago?
There's a segue here, right?
Yeah, this is the segue. I'm just changing the subject. I took a Waymo, and I don't know if I'm surprised I haven't told you because I'm just talking to everyone about it. It was awesome. I took it at night in the rain.
Yeah.
Totally cool. I recommend everybody try this stuff.
Wait, you were going from point A to point B, or this was kind of just like an experiment?
I went point A to point B. I downloaded the app and just did it.
Was it cheap?
Yeah, it was $29. It was like the same price that an Uber would cost to do it.
I'll take it.
I didn't know this, but our own Ellen Hewitt, who we're going to be speaking to a little later today, apparently in San Francisco, some folks are attacking these self-driving cars. They've been smashed. They've been lit on fire.
They're getting lots of hate.
Well, they are like a symbol of the apocalypse, right?
I guess. They're so kind, though. You get in and the music's playing. They're clean.
Did you give it 5 stars?
I did give it 5 stars. There is a rating system, too. It's just like Uber or Lyft.
Is it like
not
talk
creepy.
to you? How could it be kind? I don't get it.
It's a very welcoming environment.
Okay.
But there's no one to welcome you.
No, there's not. But your initials are on the top of the car.
So that makes you feel welcome.
Made me feel welcome.
Well, you know,
nice.
I'm going to segue to something else because Tokyo, the city of Tokyo, the government of Tokyo, is trying to make female employees there feel more welcome. They're introducing a 4-day work week to help boost fertility rates and support working women, knowing that, having to balance work and parenthood is very difficult for a lot of people, and they really need to get their fertility rate up. It's at a record low of 1.2, which is far below the replacement rate needed globally of about 2.1.
And this is all because people are working too much?
This is because people aren't having enough kids to support the pensioners.
Well, I get that. I mean,
need to get
and I
paid.
guess we're trying to be delicate about this, but the point is, because they're at the office too much, or?
But then the idea is like if you're a woman that doesn't have kids and is not married, do you not get the 4-day work week?
Good question.
I don't understand how they implement this without
a weird
like, this
line.
being
No,
kind of
or
weird, so.
working dads will get
Yeah.
a 4-day work week, for instance, and then they can help out at home, and then maybe the mom can
Yeah.
go back to the office and work as well, and maybe feel more comfortable having kids.
I do think it's interesting, too, when they talk about kind of the salary concessions they're giving as well. So maybe you get a shorter work day, though you still come in, for the 5 days. So I guess, look, at the end of the day, it looks like it's just kind of flexibility, right? So if you want to have a family or you're planning for a family, maybe you have the flexibility to work that out.
I think the hard part about a policy like this is it takes so many years to understand if it actually works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, we'll see.
Well, there's
Got
one
it.
way to know if it works, Tim.
Try it.
Go ahead.
And that's whether you end up with a baby in 9 months.
Guess I got to go. That is going to do it for our cross
What? I mean,
coverage of
come on.
He's cutting straight to the chase.
Somebody had to say it. You guys are too diplomatic.
All right, Tim, take
Bye,
us out.
Tim.
Come on now.
Bye, Norah.
Guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you same time, same place on a Monday. Enjoy a couple days off.